Sit down. We're almost to school. It's time now for the school report. Today we welcome Mike Beighley to the studio, the superintendent of the Whitehall School District, brought to you by Poppy Bus Service. The school report starts right now.
Well, it is Friday, everybody. It is graduation day down at Whitehall, and I'm joined by Mr. Beighley. How you doing this morning?
Good. How are you today?
Not too bad. It's hard to be in a bad mood with a day like today.
These last couple of days have been really nice, right? We got plenty of rain, which we needed, and now it's cleaning up, and it was interesting. We were joking the other day in the gym getting ready for graduation tonight. This might be the first time in my career we have to think about turning the heat on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it
Usually
was,
it's just the opposite.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, so we might as well kick off right now with a graduation, end of school year. It seems like we just started talking about the beginning of the school year, and now it's over.
It seems like the years go faster and faster. But, yeah, we're excited. You know, it's always bittersweet when you start saying goodbye to kids, and at the same time we know what the world has for possibilities for them. So I think, you know, it's always, again, it's an opportunity. It's the board's opportunity to really celebrate the accomplishments of these young folks, and 50 of them going through the ceremony tonight. So we're excited about that and look forward to allowing them on to the next phase of their lives.
Yeah, yeah. And you said the seniors' last day was Tuesday?
They were there Tuesday, had their class trip on Wednesday. And then we had the ceremony practice yesterday. That went really well. It's fun to see them get dressed up. They take their class picture on Thursday now. So they had a dress rehearsal in all of their garb, and I think that's when it really kind of starts to hit that this is real, and away we go. And you can see the demeanor change, and it's not change for the negative. You can see the growth and all those things, and of course, you see the kids dressed up a little bit more, which is always fun. So
yeah, that's fun. And are you doing a move to 5 days for 4K next year, or have you done that already?
We are going for next year.
Okay, that's next year now. So that's a big change.
So we haven't done anything. Yeah, we're going to add the 5th day. So we run full day 4K like many schools.
Yep.
And we're going to go to the 5th day. That'll be a flex option for folks. So they're not going to be required to come on Fridays if they want. I think that's what we're looking at is the 4 days of the week will be Monday through Thursday, and then we'll offer that 5th day. We know the challenges of childcare, and especially 1 day a week childcare.
Yeah.
That puts a strain on everybody.
Yes, it does.
And I think we found a relatively cost-neutral way to make that happen, and also do a little bit better job, perhaps, of school readiness training for our kids. So Mr. Eide found ways to run them through our special schedule. So they'll see Phi-Ed, they'll see art, those things. And, you know, our 4K programs and to some extent our 5K programs are kind of a blend of some academic prep along with a lot of social awareness, social emotional learning. How do you be in school? How do you get along? How do you work through all of those things? So I think we're excited. You know, it's a value add, I believe. Again, we're not forcing anybody to come.
Yeah.
But I think certainly it's one more thing that can attract folks to our school district as well. But again, and compliments to our staff for how they've handled that. And everybody sees the value, right? We see the need. And I think we have continually had folks in our school district willing to step up and make adjustments on their own personal side to be able to do the right things for kids. So we're excited about that. That'll start in the fall, and you know, I think it's certainly something folks can be aware of. So
yeah, and it's a service to the community too. You know, as many of you do, because you talk childcare. I know from a parent when my kids started in 4K, it was kind of when they first started that. It really helped prepare them for kindergarten, get them started, and they loved it.
Right.
And, you know, it's a little more fun than regular school for these kids.
It is, and we build rest time in and things like that. So it's not like this is grind out mode where we're talking the same approach that we do for freshmen through seniors in high school, right? Where we know what we're doing in that capacity, and I think it's. Again, the move is all part of a greater vision. You know, we have a desire, as we have shared, and I think our folks believe, we try to get better every day. It's not a cliche. We really try to find ways to get better. They don't always work. We really sat down, I think, and looked at a collective and comprehensive approach of what do we need to do to improve. And this was one of the things that we were able to do. And, you know, and we expect some potential to grow. Yeah. You know, there now are alternatives to the open enrollment timeline. So if folks are interested in that, they can look to bring their student with us. And part of that is a big picture thought process, but we needed space also to be able to do it. So with that, we're moving our 6th grade then from the elementary building to the middle school, high school, which is something we've been trying to do for years.
Okay. Yeah.
Trying to figure out the logistics of that. So it's kind of all part of a bigger improvement plan of what we need to do. And, it's advantageous for us in our building because it's a one building setup, right?
Yeah.
And we have the ability, so it's not like this big physical move. They're literally going from one end of the building to the other. But we do have the ability then to blend them into everything we do. So
get them starting in middle school instead of, because it used to be like when we were kids, 6th grade was kind of the cutoff of elementary school. And now it's kind of the start of middle school, and you get those kids starting early.
Well, and everything's interrelated. So if we need, we wanted to incorporate the 4K kids into our elementary specials program. Well, in order to do that, we need room, right? If we're going to run cost neutral. So by allowing then, or finally being able to pull the trigger and move the 6th graders, we're actually back to where they used to be before we built the elementary school. And, I think then we can incorporate those folks into that middle school programming. So now, when you blend, again, here's the interrelatedness of all this stuff, right? I think most folks know we're moving significantly into a high-tech rich environment in terms of personalized learning and in the efficiencies that creates. So we can rebuild our middle school.
Yeah.
And that allows our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders now to have STEAM or STEM activities all day or each day.
Okay.
Grades 6 through 8. So that's huge.
Yeah, that's great.
Opportunities to apply a lot of the things that we learn. We're going to add a future skills course for grades 7 and 8. I think that's huge. All part of this overall look at what we need to do to get better. So.
And that's the one thing I've learned from talking to you. You guys are not afraid to try things out, make changes, and then if they don't work, move it in a different direction. But you're always moving, shaking, figuring out what works well for these students, and I think you're doing a great job.
Well, I appreciate that, and you're right. I think we push the limits, and then if we happen to have something that doesn't go perfectly, we own that. We don't hide from it. We don't walk away from it. And we all know leadership is hard, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's easy to follow. It's easy to deny. We got plenty of that going on in our world right now.
And it's really easy to just make comments, not being involved.
Take shots at everybody else, right?
Exactly.
And or criticize or whatever. But, our board, our community, our staff, I think has always been willing to put themselves out there, and that's just part of what we do. So, especially in this world we live in, right? We're looking at voucher expansion. We're looking at a lot of different things that have potential to really stratify, really separate what we're doing and and I think you can look at it and see some short-term gain. But long-term, when you look at the long game of this, the more that these things detract from a greater purpose, I think we need to be aware of that. So we keep all those things in mind. So do we push the limits? Of course we do. But I think it's all well-intended, and it's not about egos, and it's not about a lot of those things.
It's about serving the students.
Trying to figure out what these kids need to be successful in the future, none of us can really understand.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking about a future that we don't understand, you had your ASU GSV AI Summit, or is that coming up?
No, we that was the first part of April.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to go out to San Diego, received a gift to cover the costs of that.
Okay.
And our CISA team and myself, Corey Kulig from Aliva Strum, who I think is coming in next week, for you, had an opportunity to go and really see 140 countries. I think I mentioned this before, 140 countries represented at this thing.
Wow.
And the good news is we're doing the right things. We're finding the right solutions. We're applying the same things that a lot of other parts of the world are that we're competing with. I mentioned that team from CISA that we have. We have a liftoffs program started, name chosen very appropriately, this is about taking off for a future, right? And even that has come under some fire. Folks look at that from a cynical perspective, or I'm into compliance. I don't think we should be pushing the limits. The rules are this, or the interpretation of the rules, which is really more important.
Yeah, that's usually what it is.
Folks have their interpretations of things, and I've never met a more worthwhile group that is doing the right work for the right reasons. This is not about anybody's individual gain. In fact, it would be easy to let somebody else do this.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of doing all of the research, all of the digging, taking all of those hits, at times being attacked.
Yep.
You know, which folks need to be aware of that too. We can't hide from that. Okay, you know, so I think all of this stuff is coming full circle, and that's the world we have to try to prep our kids for.
Yeah.
So I think even we have to keep that in mind. You know, I'm gonna look out at all of the folks that are at the graduation ceremony tonight, and we all have an obligation.
Yeah.
We all have an obligation to understand that the world that's coming isn't what we lived in.
I know.
And we're going to have to get uncomfortable.
Yep.
We're going to have to change. We're going to have to do all those things that we keep talking about. But, you know, I think you're right. I think we push the limits. We try to find the ways to do so. But it is research-based. It is really...
You're not just flying by the seat of your pants.
No, we've
You're
done the
doing
homework.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure it out. And we're also building a world that's never existed.
Yep.
So we will make some missteps once in a while.
Yep.
We haven't really found any yet, which is good.
Yeah,
but
that's good. Well, that's human nature. You know, people forget they want to try to be perfect in everything they do, and human nature is trial and error, and you don't look at those errors as a loss. It's a learning experience to move forward with.
Exactly, and we don't ever learn. You know, I remember part of the WIA work I did. A lot of talk about you learn from the humiliation of defeat.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that we engaged in school-based athletics from the first place was to teach, not win trophies and medals.
Yeah.
Was to teach life lessons that prepared you for difficulty and all of those things. And now I think, again, I mentioned the changes we're making in the middle school schedule. We have STEM and STEAM opportunities. I keep saying STEM or STEAM because folks use those interrelated. And the A comes into that with a couple of different fronts. We have agriculture and we have art, both, as part of that whole thing. So, you know, I think we're providing those opportunities now literally early elementary through high school. So we have to prepare kids for the world. And knowing as adults, I think I mentioned one of the other days, we have 8 generations of people coexisting right now.
Yeah.
Makes it difficult, right?
Oh,
8 different perspectives and 4 just in the workplace. That's tough.
Yes.
You know, so I think it takes communication and it takes trust. And once again, I'm fortunate. I feel fortunate every day to work where I work and live where I live. And it's all good stuff.
Yep, it's all a great community, and like I said, graduation coming up tonight should be a good time. Bittersweet for the parents out there, but congratulations to all the kids who are graduating. And anything else you want to cover before we run today?
No, I think other than happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Enjoy the festivities. We have folks, we have things going on in Pigeon Falls. We have things in Arcadia, and I just hope we see everybody on Tuesday.
Yeah,
so
should be a good time. Thank you, Mike Beighley, for being here. We are going to get back into the music right after this short break.